But this quote that we are going to roll off of this week is, the more time you waste chasing the wrong people, the longer it's going to take you to find the right one. And that's from Mel Robbins, leadership coach and expert in today's times. And Chris, when you think about that, what does that mean in a summary to yourself?
Well, what it means is, for years and years and years, I tried my darndest to use an assessment to predict whether someone is going to be successful. And it was never consistent, until I realized that that was impossible, because an assessment can't predict what all of the variables in a human being. But what I discovered finally is that you could use it to figure out who not to hire. And that's made all the difference.
It does. Yeah, I remember when you said that to us. You said, look, we are not using this DISC tool to identify the right person. We are looking to identify the people that don't need to be here.
They're wonderful people, but they should work someplace else. Well, what Glenn and I did at the beginning is we identified the 10 top producers. And then we winnowed down the DISC characteristics to a benchmark. And so then when we would run the assessment, people who were so far out of the benchmark, we would say, you're a wonderful person. Here are your strengths. Here are your limitations. But you should look for a job with someone else. You're not going to like this, and you're not going to be fulfilled by this position.
Absolutely. And I recall in 2017 when Chris had approached me at our Christmas party and said, hey, I can help you get to first place. I can help your team grow and get to first place. And that's all I needed to hear. And I'm like, man, I'm in. And I tell you, I just want to share with listeners that our growth doubled that following year. And I want to say thank you to you, Chris. And I know we're going to dive into the DISC and motivators and language, but it's the power of understanding who you're talking to, right? And how to get on their street.
Yeah, and me personally, one thing that's meant a lot to me that has helped over the years is not only understanding who you're talking to, but maybe understanding yourself even better. Understanding the way.
Remember, it was Socrates who said, know thyself. The unexamined life is not worth living.
That's right. I love taking it back so far, right? It just goes to show that the people game has not changed that much, right? And we are in the people business. Chris, I wanted to ask you, we'll take this kind of a long way back, because I know from our conversations, you're a young professional aspiring success. And, I don't remember all the story, but DISC language is what we're going to unpack today at its core, right? DISC. If you don't know what that is, pay attention. You will by the end of this show today. But Chris, I wanted to ask you if you could recall when you personally were introduced to DISC, and just maybe the light bulbs that we've all had go off in our heads. But what was that like for you that you said, this is it?
Well, David, a fellow in Dallas, Texas, I can't even remember his name, invited me to come to watch the Dallas Cowboys. And so my car was not working, and I persuaded my wife to drive her RX-7 all the way to Dallas. And so I arrive, he's on the phone, and I sit down, and he flips me a disc, the old way that we used to operate computers, a disc, and said, hey, take a look at this. I got this in the mail, and went back on his call. So I put it in his computer and click, 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 click. And I started answering these questions. And then off of his dot matrix printer came this evaluation of me, and it talked about me. I thought, how in the hell something do that? Yeah, you don't know me. How can you do this? Bingo. So Monday, the following, I called the president of the company and said, what is this thing? And he laughed and explained it to me. And he said, you want to be a distributor? And I said, yeah. Well, I was number 11. So Bill Bonstetter, bless his heart, great guy. And I used to call him all the time to understand, this particular profile and this particular, and how this one was. And I was so persistent that in his conference in January, he said, I've created for all you guys an interpretation of this, because I'm never spending enough time with anybody else as I spent with Chris Derry.